If I were thinking about moving to San Francisco in 2026, here are some of the top places I would recommend based on different buyer profiles, budgets, and lifestyle preferences. So here's some guiding questions I would give any buyer who is considering a move to San Francisco in 2026. What do you want your normal week to feel like? Do you want it to feel quiet and suburban within the city, park adjacent? Do you want it to feel like you're living in the city, close to nightlife, restaurants? How important is walk score? Do you want a house style lifestyle with a yard and more upkeep? Or do you want a condo style lifestyle where you have proximity to community? Then of course, is this purchase going to be part of a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 12-year plan? Your timeline, of course, changes what good value means. Of course, if it were my first time in San Francisco moving from another part of the United States, I might test out renting in different neighborhoods or trying out short-term rentals in different neighborhoods if the budget allowed it. If I were to go back in time and I were in my early 20s or 30s, or I were a young professional just moving to the city, I would probably choose a place that had a high walk score, made it possible for me to run most of my errands without having a car and having to worry about getting a parking sticker and being on the street or not being on the street during certain times of the week, because it's less likely that I'd find a place in some of the areas that I'm going to name that have a garage or designated off-street parking. I would want to be in a place where lots of celebrations that San Francisco is known for are sponsored or held. I would want to be in a place that has lots of nightlife and places to see live music, has proximity to the BART stations and Muni stations. So here are the places that I would live if I were a younger working professional. And that would be Mission Dolores or Intermission. In that stage of life, maybe also wanting other restaurants and bars and proximity to a lot of the places that already exist on Valencia Street and Mission Street. If you're in Mission Dolores, you're closer to Dolores Park, which of course is a central setting for a lot of the city's bigger celebrations like SF Pride. The proximity to the Castro also gives you a whole other set of places that can feel kind of transient because a lot of tourists go there for the culture of the Castro. But then there are lots of music venues and bars that are further down, closer to Valencia Street and Mission Street. Dolores Park is normally an anchor for socialization, and it was redesigned, redeveloped a few years ago. They expanded the children's playground area. There are pickleball and tennis courts. And from Mission Dolores to Intermission, there are a number of gyms, dance studios, a couple of boxing gyms, a fitness on Market Street. Well, there used to be a Soul Cycle in the Castro. Trade-offs and considerations of living in Mission Dolores and Intermission are, parking can be a trade-off. If you do own a car, it's much more densely populated. There are a lot more in Mission Dolores. There are fewer standalone single-family homes than in some of the other neighborhoods that I'm going to name in San Francisco. And weekends can feel a lot louder, busier than weekday mornings. If you are purchasing a tenancy in common or condo unit in a building, parking comes at a premium. Or if you're in a boutique TIC conversion or condo conversion, a lot of times parking is in tandem. So you have to coordinate leaving with the other occupants of the building. It can be much quieter up the block from Mission or down the block from Valencia. So just make sure you do your due diligence when you're exploring some of these neighborhoods by visiting the house you're interested in or the TIC that you're interested in at 5 p.m. on the weekend and during the weekday. Mission Dolores or Intermission, if you're able to find a multifamily home, one of the pros is that your lender is considering 75% of your rental income to help qualify you for the building. So another pro are these areas have high walk scores. As you're in Intermission on the Potrero Hill border, that's much flatter and has a higher walk score than some parts of Mission Dolores. Food culture, especially in Intermission, Potrero Hill border, it's not part of your weekend. It is your everyday. It's your Tuesday night. So some of the parks in these areas become your backyard. That's one of the cons, is that you are lucky to have a backyard with lots of natural sunlight, a backyard where maybe if you're in a smaller condo conversion building, you don't have a concrete backyard, some of the Intermission parts. And because it is higher density, depending on where you are, if there is a project nearby, if you don't have dual pane windows, you're living in older housing stock, it can be a noise nuisance you have to live with. It can also be weird CC&Rs for the HOA rules. For example, you might have a shared backyard and dogs might be allowed. They're not allowed to use the bathroom in the backyard. So some of the conveniences you would think would come with owning a place aren't necessarily true for some of these associations. So make sure you do your due diligence, as I always say, with the HOA rules and regulations and your ability to change things. Bigger new construction buildings with sizable units have extremely high HOA fees. And of course, there are more voices that contribute to that association. So part 3, if I were raising children, what are some of the neighborhoods I would consider if I wanted my whole life to be in San Francisco and there wasn't a commute involved? I would think about the convenience of getting to pre-K, the availability of pre-K in the neighborhood or nearby neighborhoods and their quality. I would want to be in an area that had more children my kids' age. So I'd want to be in an area with high density of families with kids. And then I would want a high walk score to nearby children activities and parks. And for that reason, my top neighborhood picks for families with kids would be Noe Valley, probably Nopa, north of the Panhandle. And if I wanted more space in a suburban feel, West Bortle. Why I would consider Noe Valley, and a quick note here, when I'm I'm talking about education and the lottery system in San Francisco. There's a ranked choice, well, I was going to say voting, but contributions to the lottery where your assigned area school might be your desired school. In that process, ranking it as your number one choice will likely, according to parents online, will likely result in you're getting assigned that school. That's much less probable for pre-K. So for pre-K, just expect that any public options are going to be really saturated, and it's going to be really difficult to get one of your top 10 choices for pre-K. When you get to kindergarten, supposedly some of the higher ranking elementary schools are way less impacted. So anyway, for Noe Valley, yes, there are some highly ranked per gradeschools.org elementary schools, but I'm going to talk about private pre-K because public pre-K is so impacted in San Francisco. So there's Noe Valley Nursery School, which has been a long running co-op since 1969. It's focused on play-based learning. There's a lot of one-on-one instruction. It's got a 4-to-1 student-teacher ratio. A lot of outdoor play in Glen Canyon. There's another option, a lot of course, throughout San Francisco, language immersion schools, but in Noe Valley, there's Primero Paso Location. That's a Spanish immersion school. There is Tinker STEM Schools. They have a Mandarin English immersion program in Noe Valley, but it's about $3,100 a month for full-time. That's pretty much what you can expect for private pre-K in San Francisco. Another reason Noe Valley is considered Strolley Valley is there are a lot of families with younger kids in Noe Valley. At least I witness that when I'm on the street there constantly. You got Noe Valley Town Square where they have live music, other community activities. There's a Noe Valley Rec Center. They've got the Randall Museum, and then one of the bookstores called Charlie's Corner, they have children's story time. So a lot of things that are more easily accessible within Noe Valley. And it does feel like one of the more suburban and in some parts flatter high walk score neighborhoods than some of the other ones I'm going to name. It's more probable you'll have good weather if that's a factor for you. Another reason Noe Valley is attractive, there's still a lot of single family residential housing stock, but the median price over the last 6 months in Noe Valley went up to $2.9 million. Why I would consider West Portal. One thing about the elementary school is it's recently undergone a renovation, so it's less impacted. It's more likely that you might get your assigned area school if you rank that as your first choice. And because there's more space, there's hopefully a shorter wait list if you're trying to get into West Portal's elementary school. Because inventory is limited in this neighborhood, well, that's one reason there's such competitiveness for the single family housing stock. But the median price over the last 12 months was around $2.8 million. So not too far off from what Noe Valley's was. In West Portal, there's primarily, I couldn't pull up, or there are some condo options, but it's mostly single family housing stock. And so these two pockets, Noe Valley and West Portal, are definitely not budget neighborhoods, and neither is Nopa. The reason I mentioned Nopa, again, is because proximity to Golden Gate Park. The reason it's called north of the Panhandle is because your neighborhood is north of the Panhandle. I see a lot of people walking their dogs, taking kids in strollers to the park, and that park is Golden Gate Park. So some of the other attractions that would be stimulating for outdoor play or indoor activities for children, all the museums that are within Golden Gate Park, going to the Conservatory of Flowers, going to the DeYoung Museum, going to the Academy of Sciences. And on Tuesdays, remember that entry to the museums are free. In the other direction, if you wanted to, so not that you can necessarily walk to the Randall's Children's Museum, it's on the other side, well, it's midway between Nopa and Noe Valley Glen Park border. It would be midway. You can also check out Fun Cheap SF to see the exact dates that the museums have free days in San Francisco. So Alamo Square and the Painted Ladies, it's a Filton Art Museum that's within Alamo Square. There's something called the Renegade Girls Tinkering Club. There's a program for boys and co-ed programs as well, but that's for ages 5 to 11. And what's a better measure of a place that's appropriate for kids than their celebration of Halloween? The Neighborhood Association in Nopa closes off streets so that they can have a big neighborhood party on Halloween. And that's on Grove Street. It's closed off to car activity. And then I didn't really talk about housing stock in Nopa. There's not as many single family home options here. There are multifamily commercial buildings. Because of that, there are a lot of tenancy and commons and condos. So your options are limited, but if I were to pick single family home inventory over the last 12 months, the median price comes in around what it was in Noe Valley and West Portal. So it's about $2.84 million over the last 12 months. Because single family housing stock is so limited, that includes some of Onza Vista and the surrounding neighborhoods. And when it comes to Halloween in West Portal, just visit the shops on West Portal Avenue and follow the crowds. But West Portal is also another hotspot for Halloween for kids. Now, if I were retiring or heading into retirement and thinking about downsizing, depends on what type of retiree you want to be. So a lot of the generation that is thinking about retirement might want to spend half their time in San Francisco, or at least what the conversations I've been having over the last 3 years have been wanting the home base because family's nearby, or this is the life. They've chosen San Francisco as their home a long time ago and want that city feel and community throughout the rest of their life, the access to the amenities that San Francisco has to offer. And then they want to spend their time somewhere else traveling. So budget-friendly options, some of the neighborhoods that I'm listing might consider that stage of life and that stage of retirement. I'm considering also what are long-term options if I'm going to age in place and I need access to resources. Where's the most convenient places within the city? And then some that we know more about in the San Francisco Bay Area, such as Rossmore. What are some more outside of the city if there's a slower pace of life desired that still has all the amenities that a 55 plus community, 60 plus community community would want. So some things that are universal or some commonalities across these categories for retirees might be, one, where are the flat-ish neighborhoods that don't have a whole lot of inclines and have easy sidewalks? Some hills in San Francisco will humble you quickly. 2, what are the walkabilities to basics? So groceries, healthcare, coffee, libraries, parks. And 3, where does transit not feel like a mission? And the convenience on the walkability to basics in that list should also be my healthcare providers. So where are the hospitals, clinics, concierge medical services? And then what is the built environment to you? Is your sensitivity to sound changed? Where are the quieter streets? Where are there fewer stairs? Where do I have elevators? Do I want a door person? And that type of security. So if I were looking to downsize and thinking about some of these factors, one neighborhood I would consider is Cole Valley. The median price for a single family home is higher than some of the other neighborhoods that I mentioned so far. So not necessarily for the purchase of a single family home, but for the options of townhomes, condos. The median price over the last 12 months was something around $1.38 million, with HOAs ranging from $220 per month to $800 per month. So, and depends on whether or not you have a boutique TIC setup or a larger condo complex. And here you have proximity to Haight-Ashbury. If you want that type of activity, maybe it's nostalgic for you. I don't know which demographic I'm speaking to, because you could be retiring when you're in your early 50s, or you could be a young. So, and Cole Valley, you have a smaller neighborhood footprint feel. This is another one of the neighborhoods too that came up that's really popular during Halloween and could be popular for families raising kids. And thinking about Muni, you are reliant on the inline to get to a BART and to get to downtown. So anyone taking the inline basis, I think that's frustratingly slow. And in Cole Valley, you want to obviously shop building by building. Some of these converted boutique TICs and condos, there are stairs up to even the first unit. So it might be more competitive finding a lower level unit if that is a consideration for you. So another option to think about if you want to stay within the city and you want to be around other 55 plus or older communities, and then just having people in your community that are your age, that would be Lower Pack Heights / Japantown / Chinatown. So in Japantown, there's quite a high concentration of dedicated senior communities and co-ops that have tons of ground floor units, lower level units, and has, compared to other parts of the city, lots of below market rate units with lower HOAs. So I'm not going to name off every single HOA, but I'm going to show you on a map here all the different senior communities. Even if I excluded those below market rate units, the median price of condos and co-ops in this area in Japantown were $978,000 in the last 12 months. What's cool about Japantown? I think if you're thinking about longevity, outside of having a dedicated community with transitional options from independent living to assisted living, these resources for like good specific types of food. If you're close to the Fillmore, if you want to go see live music, that includes jazz at Sheba Lounge or Sheba Lounge, and some of these long-standing bars that are third places. So you're still in proximity of a crowd that doesn't necessarily share the same generation as you do. So you can step out of those communities very quickly that are dedicated to a specific age range or time period in life. I was going to say, what's so awesome about Japantown, when I think about longevity and maintaining my health and being active, there are plenty of gyms, if not already a part of your HOA, your co-op. There are spas with saunas, steam rooms, ice baths, a kabuki, which is in Japantown and has dedicated nights, men only. They have non-co-ed soaking times. So if you're thinking about accessibility to functional medicine practices, there's no shortage of those in Japantown. In addition, in Lower Pack Heights, there are concierge medical services, functional medicine clinics, and other resources that aren't just hospitals. You are proximal to several healthcare institutions. And the last one to consider if you're living in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have a whole video dedicated to this community, and that's not in San Francisco. If you're ride or die San Francisco, this community would not be for you. And even people who are retiring and living in the East Bay, it's not for everyone. And that's Rossmore. So it's a 55 plus community that's in Walnut Creek. If you were searching for condos, townhomes, co-ops in Walnut Creek, you would notice the initiation fee plus the very high HOAs in this community when searching for condos, townhomes, lofts in Walnut Creek. You know it's a part of Rossmore when you see that type of HOA. So you check out my video for Rossmore. The cities leading to Walnut Creek have BART stations, so you would lose accessibility to the city. If you wanted a more peaceful experience, if you wanted a non-San Francisco retirement experience in a place that has options for independent living, active community, assisted living, in a space that has everything, that would be Rossmore. Honorable mentions for neighborhoods for thinking about what's happening in 2026 and the AI entrepreneur boom. I would consider Soma. If I wanted to be closer to the water, I would go to North Beach or the Marina and commute in if I'm working in those areas. If I wanted to be close to the freeway or closer to the East Bay, easy in and out during non-peak traffic hours, or by commuting on the BART station, I would choose the Potrero Hill Intermission border or Intermission. Or in that category, want to be close to the water, want to be on the sunny side. Most of the time sunny side, I want to be in South Beach so I could hop on and off the freeway to get to the East Bay. Or if I was commuting coming for work into the Peninsula or South Bay and wanted to take Caltrain, I would consider Mission Bay and South Beach. There's some great restaurant, and you can go to all the events at Chase, all the live music at Chase Center. If you like big venues for music, you can see the Valkyries and Warriors home games. So there are options for entertainment in those areas, and you get the benefit of being close to downtown, close to the freeways, close to Caltrans, close to BART. Also close to the ferry in Mission Bay if you wanted to take the ferry any day of the week. So if you want to explore more neighborhoods, or you're having trouble deciding where to explore in San Francisco, or you just want to familiarize yourself with the home buying process in a city like San Francisco or other cities in the Bay Area, we also have this neighborhood quiz below, which will help you narrow your choices in San Francisco based on some of the preferences we've outlined here, as well as preferences for housing stock, sunlight, your budget, and the link below. Reach out using our contact information below or the scheduling link. We'll be happy to help you.